1-year-old who is just starting to construct sentences, a toddler blowing his birthday cake in celebration of reaching 2 years of age, a child at the age of 3 making new friends at the neighbors, a 4-year-old who just moved from bottles to glasses of milk, and a child who is just about to get ready for his or her first day at school. Surely, these experiences will all be memorable milestones in a child's life and remembrances for their parents. Sadly, with the high rise of risks, causes, and pull factors, millions of children's lives are cut off. We might think of food, water, and shelter as the most basic need the everyday child we see should get. But what if we told you that not all of them has access to these, not to mention those who completely have not? All children have rights from the moment of conception to articulate their needs, their feelings, their motives, their wants, and the attention they deserve from their parents. However, thousands of them don't have the opportunity to demand as such because of their low chances of living better lives. As a result, the world still reports numbers of child mortality every single day. I start off this production on behalf of Eyewitnesses Anniversary Special, made possible through the GMA News and Public Affairs, airing on Philippine TV. Today, we will be tackling the Millennium Development Goals or MDG's fourth goal, reducing child mortality, in this documentary advocacy video we've entitled In the Eyes of the Child. I am Ralph, introducing today's topic. The world may still see surges of young deaths, but at the conclusion of this video, you will be able to realize that you, yourself, can be a part of the change and hope the children of the world need. This production is brought to you by the DOS Press Corps, Young Journalists of the Development Goals Correspondents Association or DGCA. To start off, the eyes of the child pertain to child mortality itself. As we look deeper into the abyss of the eyes of the child, we introduce you to the problem's pupil, the first part of our documentary advocacy video, wherein, as the pupil of the eye, we'll be tackling all about the center of this problem, its overview, as well as the part and goal it plays in the development goals, and moreover, its prevalence in the Philippine archipelago. Ms. De La Rosa, lead us on.
The mortality of children under the age of 5 is referred to as child mortality. The child mortality rate, commonly known as the under 5 mortality rate, is the likelihood of dying between the ages of birth and 5 years, represented as a percentage of 1,000 live birth. It includes neonatal and infant mortality, or the risk of dying during the first year of life. Historical science suggests that around 1/4 of infants died in the first year of life, and around half of all children died before they reach the end of puberty. It's only in the very recent past that we've seen dramatic improvements. Some recent studies, such as that of Brosco in 1999 and Rosnock in 2005, have offered evidences on ancient estimates of infant mortality rates, dating back well before government collected vital statistics on a regular basis. The first attempts to provide a measure of the mortality of infants and children date back to the origin of demography. It was discovered that infants and children accounted for 1/3 of the total number of deaths per year. However, it was only in the second half of the 19th century that the statistical analysis of infant and child mortality has shown its modern features. Moreover, it was much later on, at the end of the 19th and more particularly in the first decades of the 20th century, that infant mortality became and was perceived to be a severe social problem. Largely unseen and rarely reported, the deaths of children are a daily tragedy of immense scale. Globally, 4.6% of all children die before they are 15 years old. On average, a child dies every 5 seconds a day. This issue is so prevalent that it has become the fourth goal listed by the Millennium Development Goals. The United Nations Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs, are 8 goals that UN member states have agreed to try to achieve by the year 2015. The United Nations Millennium Declaration, signed in September 2000, commits world leaders to combat poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, environmental degradation, and discrimination against women. The MDGs are derived from this declaration. Each MDG has targets set for 2015 and indicators to monitor progress from 1990 levels. Several of those relate directly to health. The MDGs actually have 8 goals, but for this video, we will tackle the 4th Millennium Development Goal, the reduction of child mortality. This has a target of reducing by 2/3 between 1990 and 2015 the under 5 mortality rate. Globally, significant progress has been made in reducing mortality in children under 5 years of age. In 2013, 6.3 million children under 5 died compared with 12.7 million in 1990. Between 1990 and 2013, under 5 mortality declined by 49% from an estimated rate of 90 deaths per 1,000 live births to 46. The global rate of decline has also accelerated in recent years. The MDGs were and have expired in 2015, and the discussion of post-2015 agenda continues. Because of this, the Sustainable Development Goals for SDGs have superseded the original 8 MDGs. In the Sustainable Development Goals, this global issue has now ascended as target 321. The reduction of under 5 mortality rate per 1,000 live births, or named as SDG 321, this target that by 2030 we should have ended preventable deaths of newborns and children under 5 years of age, with all countries aiming to reduce neonatal mortality and under 5 mortality. But what is the difference between neonatal and child mortality? Ms. Diaz, are you willing to succeed me?
In demography, the difference is child mortality refers to the death of children under the age of 5, while infant mortality refers to the death of those under the age of 1. In 2020, in child mortality, 5.0 million children under 5 years of age died. This translates into 13,800 children under the age of 5 dying every day in 2020, while in 2019, the infant mortality rate in the United States was 5.6 deaths per 1,000 live births. How about we move on to the child mortality situation in the Philippines? The probability of dying between exact age 1 and age 5, expressed as the number of deaths of children from exact age 1 to less than age 5 during a given period per 1,000 children surviving to age 12 months at the beginning of the period. In 2019, pneumonia was the leading cause of mortality among children aged 1 to 4 years old in the Philippines. The number of deaths caused by the disease amounted to approximately 1.3 thousand. In 2019, child mortality rate for Philippines was 27.3 deaths per 1,000 live births. Child mortality rate of Philippines fell gradually from 83.8 deaths per 1,000 live births in 1970 to 27.3 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2019. Everyone died. What diseases make up these deaths? Not only at a national level but globally? Let's dive in as we move on to the next chapter, the child's cataract, where we'll be discussing the problems that continue to aggravate child mortality. First is preterm birth. Preterm birth, defined as birth between 20 to 37 weeks age of gestation, possess major concerns as it causes serious health problems. Across 184 countries, the rate of preterm birth ranges from 5% to 18% of babies born, and the Philippines ranks 8 out of 184 countries for the number of babies born prematurely, and ranks 17th for the total number of deaths due to complications from preterm birth. Every year, an estimated 15 million babies are born preterm, and this number is rising. Preterm birth complications are the leading cause of death among children under 5 years of age, responsible for approximately 1 million deaths in 2015. Although the exact cause of preterm birth is often unknown, there are some things that can be done to help women, especially those who have an increased risk, to reduce the risk of preterm birth, including the taking or progesterone supplements and cervical cerclage. Second are acute respiratory infections. Acute respiratory infections, or ARI, are responsible for almost 20% of all deaths of children aged less than 5 years worldwide. The proportion of under 5s with ARI taken to an appropriate healthcare provider is a key indicator for coverage of intervention and care seeking and provides critical inputs to monitoring progress towards child survival related Millennium Development Goals and strategies. ARI death rates range from 0.85 to 4.75 per 1,000 infants and from 0.06 to 0.39 per 1,000 children 1 to 4 years old. In countries with a high pediatric population, 1/4 of all pediatric hospital admissions are mainly due to ARI. The disease is among the most common cause of both illness and mortality in children aged below 5 years. Preventing ARIs in children include administering them MMR vaccines or measles, mumps, and rubella, good hygiene, and high vitamin diets to lower chances of respiratory infections. What is the last of the 3 honorable mentions as causes of child mortality, you ask? Well, this leads me to believe that Ms. Carpio will be introducing to you this latter part.
Lastly are intraparatum-related conditions. Intraparatum-related neonatal deaths are among the leading causes of under 5 child deaths and account for 26% of all newborn deaths. An estimated 1 in 10 babies will need some help to start breathing at birth. Intraparatum complications such as prolonged labor, preeclampsia, maternal infections, and intraparatum hemorrhage are responsible for half of all maternal deaths, 23% of neonatal deaths, and 32% of stillbirths annually. Now that I've mentioned the 3 honorable mentions that are worth mentioning for the blame to child mortality, it has been concluded that undernutrition or malnutrition is the world's leading cause of child mortality. Come with me as we delve in. Nearly half all deaths in children under 5 are attributable to undernutrition. Undernutrition puts children at greater risk of dying from common infections, increases the frequency and severity of such infections, and delays recovery. Malnutrition is the condition that develops when the body is deprived of vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients it needs to maintain healthy tissues or organ function. Malnutrition occurs in people who are either undernourished or overnourished. There are 3 main causes of malnutrition. Causes of malnutrition includes inappropriate dietary choices, a low income, difficulty obtaining food, and various physical and mental health conditions. 45% of all child deaths are attributed to undernutrition. According to the World Health Organization, many families cannot afford or access enough nutritious foods like fresh fruit and vegetables, legumes, meat, and milk, while foods and drinks high in fat, sugar, and salt are cheaper and more readily available, leading to a rapid rise in the number of children and adults who are overweight and obese in poor as well as rich countries. It is quite common to find undernutrition and overweight within the same community, household, or even individual. It is possible to be both overweight and micronutrient deficient. For example, so what is being done to solve malnutrition? In April 2016, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution proclaiming the UN Decade of Action on Nutrition from 2016 to 2025. The decade aims to catalyze policy commitments that result in measurable action to address all forms of malnutrition. The aim is to ensure all people have access to healthier and more sustainable diets to eradicate all forms of malnutrition worldwide. Now that we've witnessed the 4 main causes of child mortality globally, you might have been wondering about what does it take for some parents or relatives to have lost a loved child. Viewers, we have conducted an interview with a grieving mother who has just lost her beloved offspring. I may now hand you over to Mr. Moody for the interview we named The Parent's Voice.
Grieving the death of a child is often regarded as a big and ultimate tragedy. In actuality, it isn't common for parents to lose a child, but when it does happen, grief will surely be unremarkable. Approximately 53,000 children die each year in the United States, according to the National Center for Child Death Review Policy and Practice. That means each year, more than 100,000 parents face the unthinkable, the loss of a child.
They were my happiness. They were basically everything I had. Now, I feel like I'm left with nothing.
Here at this documentary advocacy video, we dig into the roots and heart of a bereaved mother that I have interviewed for the sake of the world's awareness about child mortality. Here is her story.
I'm Samantha Luna Vergara, 34 years old, and unfortunately, I am a mother who had lost her daughter, Hailey, at a relatively young age.
I am very sorry to hear that, Mrs. Vergara. May I now ask questions regarding your beloved daughter? How would you describe Hailey? Any remarks you would like to make regarding her?
My daughter Hailey was a curious one. I remember when I found out that I was pregnant with her, I was, to be exact, nervous and thrilled at the time. And I'm speaking as a lady who was afraid of childbirth. When I had gone into labor, my husband assured me that everything will be alright, and that my baby was going to be born a healthy and crying one. And sure enough, she did turn out that beautiful, bouncing baby girl I adore up to this date. She was our bundle of joy, and my husband and I would often argue about whose name would be her first word. Turns out, she said mommy as her first. She was curious and she captivates everyone with her hazel brown eyes. She often likes to play with my dogs Lucy and Bailey, and they guard her like a VIP. Since she started to walk, she would often take interest in seeing that little girl she saw right in front of her when she stared at the mirror. I would assume that she's fascinated about how cute she is wearing her pink outfits. Until she got older, she still makes looking at herself in the mirror as a hobby, as we would often compliment her about how beautiful she is and how perfect she was to us. Her smiles could light up the room. It was this day when we woke up to her coughing non-stop. I remember the day before that day, just like any normal day for all of us. And as that happened during the pre-pandemic times, we suspected nothing other than the common cold. It really came off as a surprise to us, honestly, as her little girl was healthy and seldom would catch any colds and flus.
Oftentimes, when I brief the parents of my patients, they would often go to the pediatric ward complaining about coughs that were intense and were like no other cough they have heard their child make before. At times, these coughs would often be joined together with yellowish to bloody mucus.
We have already had a panic as she had just stained her onesies with blood after she had been coughing it up for quite a while. My husband and I immediately rushed her to the pediatrician as she had been dealing with chills. Hailey also showed signs of diarrhea and fever.
Early signs of pneumonia include cough that produces mucus, cough pain, vomiting or diarrhea, tiredness, and fevers. Early symptoms of viral pneumonia are the same as those of bacterial pneumonia. But with viral pneumonia, the breathing problem happens slowly. Your child may wheeze and the cough may get worse. Viral pneumonia may make a child more at risk of bacterial pneumonia.
As our pediatrician advised, we rushed her to the nearest hospital for her to undergo some tests, but she suspected that it was pneumonia.
What test did she had underwent?
I think it was a pleural fluid culture and a couple of blood tests.
Pleural fluid culturing is a sample test that takes a sample of fluid from the space between the lungs and the chest wall. Fluid may collect in that area because of the pneumonia. This fluid may be infected with the same bacteria as the lung, or the fluid may just be caused by the inflammation of the lung.
After a few hours, we did get the results, and it was indeed pneumonia.
Pneumonia is actually a lung infection in children and can either be mild or serious that inflames the air sacs in one or both lungs. The air sacs may fill with fluid or pus, causing cough with phlegm or pus, fevers, chills, and difficulty breathing. A variety of organisms, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi, can cause pneumonia.
My baby, Haley, woke up feeling chilly with feverish heat. She asked me, Mommy, am I going to die? From a child of 4 years of age, that was second most heartbreaking moment I have experienced in my life. Seeing your daughter in the hospital bed, fighting for her life, and knowing her end is near, I knew I had to be strong as a mother. My husband read her a story after we've been crying for minutes. Consoling her, I assured her that everything will be fine. It's just that she's sick and the doctor needs to see her. And that's all I ever wanted her to know. After that, she had been put to sleep, not knowing that the moment before that will be the last time I see her alive. After just hours, pneumonia had taken my baby from me.
Most children recover within 3 weeks, but in severe cases, the infection spread and interferes with oxygen reaching the bloodstream. In extreme cases that go untreated, pneumonia can kill within hours. Children who are younger than 2 years old are more at risk of pneumonia because their immune system have not developed fully. Pneumonia is one of the leading reasons for children in the Philippines to be in a hospital.
I felt like I would die at that sudden moment. It was a feeling I am not able to put into words. I often question myself, have I ever been wrong? Or have I given my child adequate care and attention as a mother? I prayed and just somehow wished that I should have been the one who lied on that deathbed. My husband and I were devastated. We had many plans for her, and to our surprise, we were pregnant at that time. I didn't know what to feel. I was just in utter shock and disbelief. After burying her, I sat on the porch staring at the kids at the park, right in front of our house. I sort of burst out into tears, imagining that Haley had just been playing with his dad on that very same swing days ago. I blamed myself for what happened. I did nothing but cry every single day. I did nothing but stare at our blank walls, and I refused to eat nor drink. I would lock up myself up in the bedroom, along with my baby's toys on the floor, just like where she used to play with them while I did my morning wash with her. And after that, I found out that I had miscarried. At that point of time, I was like under local anesthesia. I was numb. It was like I could not even cry a single tear. Nothing felt the same way ever again. I had just lost my daughter, and now I lost another one which was supposed to be coming soon. I sought comfort and love from my colleagues and friends. They were all very supportive of me, and my husband stayed with me along the way. He reassured me that things happen for a reason, but still, were not acceptable. For now, I can say that not only I, but perhaps other parents that have lost a child or two would agree too. That you can and would not accept the loss of your offspring ever. You're just going to have to get used to it, as if it is the only thing you got left. Grief may still lie and surround us for a while, but we would not take it as a reason to not jump back again and kick the days off. We sure may be grieving, but we are comforted by the fact that Haley is around us. My baby girl must be so proud of her mommy and daddy, being strong and tough, for being impenetrable and for being each other's refuge along their predicament. To all parents out there, childless or not, you are all strong.
Again, we would like to express our greatest and warmest condolences to your family, Mrs. Vergara. Thank you for sharing your story. Again, I am Mr. Vince Muli. Let me take you to the interventions and organizations child mortality has. Sherilyn.
With that story heard, I know most of you would beg for a question to be asked. What possible interventions are there for child mortality? What kind of organizations and efforts focus on that? We'll see as we go along through the video. Let's start with high-cost interventions regarding child mortality. These are acts of interfering with the outcome or cause, especially condition or process. First is the Expanded Program on Immunization or EPI, scheduled for poliomyelitis, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, measles, and tuberculosis, which is one of the most cost-effective ways to improve child health. The Millennium Development Goals or MDGs have been one focus for efforts. The establishments of international funds such as the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization or Gavi, founded in 2000, and smaller foundations such as the Clinton Health Access Initiative, founded in 2007. The Children's Investment Fund Foundation, which made its first significant investments in 2009, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, founded in 1997, has brought new resources as well as an emphasis on value for money. The increase in resources and the growing interest in results combined greatly increased the number of economical analyses of maternal and child health interventions. But what is highly accessible and possible for implementations, given our current circumstances, are low-cost interventions? Post-hospital mortality is a significant problem in low-income countries, where children can have upwards of a 20% chance of dying following discharge from the hospital. Responding to the urgent need for post-hospital interventions, Dr. Duncan Howe, Assistant Professor of Pediatrics at Weill Cornell Medicine, Dr. Robert Peck, Associate Professor of Medicine at Weill Cornell Medicine, and colleges conducted a pilot intervention study that reduced the post-hospital mortality rate by 60% for children with sickle cell disease in Tanzania. Implementing a linkage to care intervention with social workers for children with sickle cell disease, the post-hospital intervention involved 5 sessions of a social worker meeting with children and families over the course of the first 90 days after hospital discharge. The intervention was able to reduce 12-month post-hospital mortality from 19.2% down to 6.7% and increased the clinic attendance rate from 45.6% up to 93.2%. The post-hospital period is an opportune time to intervene and link children to the clinic, and hence reduce overall child mortality. A low-cost social worker intervention can be targeted to children most at risk of dying after discharge in low-income countries. Our analysis in 13 Eastern and Southern African countries shows that universal coverage of scientifically proven cost-effective interventions would reduce child deaths from the current 2 million to just 650,000. Coverage of child survival interventions remains extremely low in many countries. Efforts on child mortality are also made, which is Millennium Development Goal for itself. FAO programs assist poor households and communities to secure access to nutritionally adequate diets and reduce child undernutrition. Improve complementary feeding for young children, i.e., giving foods in addition to breast milk, is an important way to prevent undernutrition and reduce child mortality. FAO helps countries strengthen local capacities to improve complementary feeding for young children, using locally available and affordable foods. Through linking household food security with nutrition education, improved complementary feeding using family foods is feasible, even in resource-poor environments.
Thank you for that, Ms. Ochoa. We have certainly taken note of the interventions as well as the efforts made to combat child mortality. Reaching this part of this documentary advocacy video has led me to think of something. What can people do to reduce child mortality? Let's move on to the last chapter of our documentary advocacy video we named Society's Eye Drops. which encompasses the solutions the members of the society can do to lessen the child mortality rate even more. Let's get it on. I, Mr. Muli, will now raise you to World Health Organization's 6 solutions to the most preventable causes of under 5 deaths, which include immediate and exclusive breastfeeding, skilled attendance for antenatal, birth, and postnatal care, access to nutrition and micronutrients, family knowledge of danger signs in a child's health, improve access to water, sanitation and hygiene, and immunization. Let's tick them off one by one. First is the implementation of immediate and exclusive breastfeeding for new moms. Newborns and young children receive essential benefits through breastfeeding, resulting in improved survival, health, and human capital outcomes. Breastfeeding reduces the risk of childhood infections such as diarrhea and pneumonia and premature mortality, as well as minimizes nutrition-related harm to cognitive development in early childhood. But why is it that important? Breast milk helps keep your baby healthy. It supplies all the necessary nutrients in the proper proportions. It protects against allergies, sickness, and obesity. It protects against diseases like diabetes and cancer. It protects against infections like ear infections. Mother's more mature immune system makes antibodies to the germs to which she and her baby have been exposed. These antibodies enter her milk to help protect her baby from illness. A US study reports that babies who are breastfed have a 21% lower risk of death in their first year compared with babies never breastfed. The reduction in risk rises to 38% if babies are breastfed for 3 months or more. Second, there should be the presence of skilled attendants for antenatal, birth, and postnatal care. Skilled attendants, people with midwifery skills, such as midwives and doctors and nurses who have been trained to proficiency in the skills to manage normal or uncomplicated pregnancies, childbirth, and the immediate postnatal period, and identify, manage, or refer the complications in the woman and newborn are best placed to ensure the survival and safety of pregnant women and their infants. Whatever their professional title, health professionals functioning as skilled attendants should be able to identify early signs of complications and offer first-line emergency obstetric care, including emergency newborn care when needed. This is as important because babies are particularly vulnerable to medical malpractice that occurs during pregnancy, delivery, or the neonatal period. Additionally, medical negligence is often at play when healthcare professionals cause preventable harm to a mother or her newborn during pregnancy or childbirth. Although many birth injuries heal within a few weeks, others can cause permanent damage. Sadly, a simple medical mistake can cause lifelong emotional and financial hardship to families. Number 3. Families should have consistent access to nutrition and micronutrients. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals needed by the body in very small amounts. However, their impact on the body's health are critical, and deficiency in any of them can cause severe and even life-threatening conditions. They perform a range of functions, including enabling the body to produce enzymes, hormones, and other substances needed for normal growth and development. Deficiency to any or both of the two would often lead to malnutrition. Food-based strategies, which include food production, dietary diversification, and food fortification, are the most sustainable approaches to increasing the micronutrient status of populations. These approaches not only prevent micronutrient deficiency problems, but also contribute to general malnutrition prevention. Ms. De La Rosa, should you continue and lead us on the fourth up to the end?
Fourth is that families should be wary of the danger signs in a child's health. The main factors influencing knowledge of parents or caregivers about newborn and young infant illness identified as the parent's educational attainment, as well as knowledge about pediatric danger signs. Mother's education is an important determinant factor for knowledge of newborn and young infant illness. Mothers having secondary and above educational level increase the odds of their knowledge by nearly 3 times. Similarly, paternal education was a significant relevant predictor of good knowledge about neonatal and young infant illness. The odds of having knowledge about newborn and young infant illness was 6 times among fathers who achieved secondary and above educational level. Mothers having antenatal care were 4 times more likely to know about newborn and young infant illness compared to their counterparts. Therefore, the mother's knowledge about child care influences the nature and quality of care that is given to the child. Several studies have revealed that the mother's level of education has a positive impact on her knowledge and how she deals with child health care issues. Second to the last solution cited is improved access to water, sanitation, and hygiene. The combined benefit of hand washing, food hygiene, and household hygiene reduces infant diarrhea by more than 1/3, and safe excreta disposal can reduce the risk of infant diarrhea by up to 37%. Improved drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene also lead directly to improved child growth and development. Sanitation is essential to children's survival and development. Poor sanitation puts children at risk of childhood diseases and malnutrition that can impact their overall development, learning, and later in life economic opportunities. Unsafe hygiene practices are widespread, compounding the effects on people's health. The impact on child mortality rates is devastating, with more than 700 children under 5 who die every day from diarrheal diseases due to poor sanitation, poor hygiene, or unsafe drinking water. Contaminated water and poor sanitation are linked to transmission of diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, hepatitis A, typhoid, and polio. Absent, inadequate, or inappropriately managed water, sanitation services expose children under ages of 5 to mortality. What we can do about this is to implement rainwater harvesting system to collect and store rainwater for drinking or recharging underground aquifers. Build wells to extract groundwater from underground aquifers and provide home water treatment capability through the use of filters, soil disinfection, or flocculants to make drinking water safe. We must improve sanitation facilities by providing toilets and latrines that flush into a sewer of safe enclosure. Promote good hygiene habits through education. Proper hand washing with soap and water can reduce diarrhea cases by up to 35%. Moreover, we should provide more support to local level sanitation plans and strategies. Second, do more work on fecal sludge monitoring and management. Third, communicate the benefits of investing in sanitation to communities through the means of programs, seminars, and social media. Lastly, is the widespread immunization. Immunization is a simple and effective way of protecting children from serious diseases. It not only helps protect individuals, it also protects the broader community by minimizing the spread of diseases. Vaccines work by triggering the immune system to fight against certain diseases. Vaccinations prevent children from getting diseases for which there are often no medical treatments. These illnesses can result in serious complications and even child mortality. A small number of children may be susceptible to diseases such as those with impaired immune systems. Since 1990s, immunization has been a major reason for substantial drop in child mortality. But despite this progress, 1.5 million children still die from vaccines, preventable diseases every year. In 2012, the World Health Organization estimated that vaccination prevents 2.5 million deaths each year, with 100% immunization and 100% efficacy of the vaccines. 1 out of 7 deaths among young children could be prevented, mostly in developing countries, making this an important global health issue. A solution to this is simple, which is further educating mothers about the significance of vaccinations, wherein their child would get the optimum immunity to fight off diseases and infections. What parents should know is that vaccines protect against vaccines-preventable diseases, protect and prevent against serious diseases, and that Vaccines preventable diseases are still a threat with vaccination, still being the best protection. And with that, I may now hand you over to Mr. Espino as we conclude this documentary advocacy video.
Through the course of time, we should always still remember that children have the rights of articulating their needs and feelings. With being aware of the history of child mortality, its leading causes, its interventions, and its global efforts, you can help decrease the rates of child mortality. Whether you may be an ordinary civilian, a mother, a father, or anyone else, your knowledge regarding ways on how to provide more immediate and exclusive breastfeeding, skilled attendance for antenatal, birth and postnatal care, access to nutrition and micronutrients, knowledge of danger signs in a child's health, improved access to water, sanitation and hygiene, and immunizations will be of big help to the lowering rates of child mortality. Thanks to the efforts made by the 4th Millennium Development Goal, we are striving and continuing to make the rates of child mortality descend even more. As I speak to raise the advocacy and wider awareness about child mortality, a brighter future with certainty is seen for the future generations. You never know when you'll be a reason for a mother's relieving sigh, a father's deep gasp, and a child's joy and healthy smile. You can be part of this change, and you are needed by the children. Together as a united world, we can decrease the rates of child mortality even more. We should never give up in fighting for this cause. The youth, the hope of the future, need us. Having their lives at stake, they would continue to fall upon our neglect. Thank you for tuning in to this documentary advocacy video, wherein we took a deeper look into the eyes of the child. I am Ralph Espino, and on behalf of DOS Press Corps, Development Goals Correspondence Association, GMA News and Public Affairs, and Eyewitnesses Anniversary Special, we gladly encourage you to join us in this quest in fighting child mortality, being not the problem, but the solution. Thank you for watching.